Hi, I'm Chris Moran with Elgin Volkswagen. Thanks for taking a few minutes with me for a quick cruise in this gorgeous 2011 Porsche Cayenne. Naturally, the Porsche name is synonymous with motorsports, sports cars, the iconic 911 model, and the model range they've really grown into these days. But the Cayenne has been a huge part of Porsche's success in the last 10 years. Came out as 2003 model. It's been through a couple generations. This is the third generation of the car, the 2011, which is very, very similar to the car you'd buy brand new today in the showroom at Porsche. Being that it is a Porsche, naturally you would assume that this vehicle is built to reflect the athletic nature of the brand, and by all means, I mean, virtually any Porsche is built to do that. This is a great representation of that. This particular vehicle I'm in is unique for the fact that it is the V6 all-wheel drive model. Being 2011, it was the first year of this body style, so it still does look very fresh. But it was traded to us with just over 80,000 miles on it. Shows and drives fantastic. Really nothing to discuss in the way of drivability. It really does drive as you'd expect a brand new vehicle to. Tires are almost fresh. The car did get traded to us with a set of virtually brand new tires on it, but the nice thing about being a Volkswagen dealer is actually I have a couple of techs that have gone through Porsche training, so they do know these cars pretty well and have gone top to bottom on this one to make sure it's all the way there. But one of the first impressions you have in this car as you jump behind the wheel is, you know, the ignition's on the left side of the steering column. Not everybody understands why that is. Way back when, and I've said this if you've seen older Porsche videos I've done, when they had the original Le Mans races, the drivers used to have to start in the pits and they'd run to the car and they'd have to start the car as they were getting in it to begin the race. So by having the ignition on the left side of the steering column, they basically were able to grab for the key, get the car started quicker, therefore saving maybe a few seconds off of the time of the race. So that's kind of a concrete example of the forward thinking that Porsche uses to engineer their cars. But all in all, it's a very business style driving environment. As the driver, the visibility is fantastic. You've got basically 5 sets of gauge clusters here. You've got your oil pressure and oil temperature in one gauge, which most cars don't have that anymore. I actually think that's neat to see because you can actually see the fluctuation of the oil pressure as you accelerate. The analog speedometer with your odometer right in there. Dead center, as in true Porsche fashion, is your tachometer. So you can see your engine speed above all. You have a digital piece in the cluster here that shows what speed we're in, and we are in 8th gear right now, just cruising on the highway. It is an 8-speed automatic this is paired to. You do have a large digital speedometer there, so it's almost redundant from the analog, but got it right there, clear as day. The other gauge pod is a full digital display. Right now, it's kind of neat, and I like this about Porsche, is it actually will show you the speed limit of where you're driving right there in that cluster on top of all the other information. And right now I have all the audio information on because I'm listening to satellite radio, so it does show what satellite program I have on right now. Other than that, you got your coolant temperature, fuel gauge, but everything, again, very, very business-like. A Porsche steering wheel, smaller in diameter than you're normally used to, and it does have these, I'd call them shift buttons. They're similar to paddles. If you push them forward, they'll upshift. If you bring them back, they'll downshift, so that takes me down to 6th. Allows me to access a little bit more of that 6-cylinder power. Goes right back into the drive mode automatically after 10 seconds, but if you want to keep in the manual mode, you can actually take this. They call it Tiptronic in Porsche speak, but pop this over to the left, goes into the manual mode. Now I'm in full manual mode, so I can downshift to my heart's content and drive as fast or as slow as I like in any gear that I so choose. It's pretty neat. The Panamera model was launched for the 2010 model year, and that did benchmark this new style, so virtually every new Porsche you get in has the same similar setup in here. You've got this cascading console, factory navigation in here. You got a fantastic Bose sound system. This one does have dual zone automatic climate control with heated dual power front seats up here with a memory setting for me over here on the driver's side. But you got your power windows and locks over here. You do have a manual child lock. Control for the power rear hatch in the back. It is a power rear hatch. You hit this button, it'll pop it open, and then there's a button in the rear to close it. And power folding exterior mirrors as well. But then everything else you'd expect, you know, cruise control. You do have a rear wiper for the tailgate as well. But think how quiet and smooth this is. I mean, for 80,000 miles, if I put a piece of tape over that odometer, you wouldn't even know it had 15,000 miles on it. That's how nice it is. And it smells like a Porsche. If you've owned a Porsche, they use a specific grade of leather that you can actually smell that familiar Porsche smell on this particular car. But one thing that makes this unique is the option list on this car. There are so many things. There's almost $20,000 in factory options on this car. which I'm sure I'll miss a couple of them, so I'll throw a couple overlay pictures in there just to be sure I get them all. Back of this beautiful shifter though, you do have the ability to shift into a low range for the 4-wheel drive system. It is a full-time 4-wheel drive system, so you really don't have the ability to shift from 2 to 4, but it's seamless. There's a computer monitoring it, so you're not always running in 4. When it senses the car is slipping, it'll engage the appropriate drive wheel, and it's pretty much a seamless feel for this car to go from just normal driving to fully engaged 4-wheel drive. Behind that, you've got this sport button here. Sport will change a little bit of the drive feel. It'll amplify the throttle characteristics. It'll also change the program within the transmission to allow the transmission to be a little bit more aggressive on the downshift. So even if I'm laying into it a little bit, the suspension will firm up, but it just went right down to 4th gear there as I just barely laid in. So with that mode on, it's anticipating I'm going to be driving pretty fast, but we are not on a public race course today. So I'm going to turn that off and keep my license. Button next to that shows automatic start and stop. The car will actually cycle itself through automatic ignition. It'll turn itself off at a stoplight if you keep that engaged. And then this last button here is hill descent control. It's like a cruise control for taking a vehicle down the hill. But if you look at the interior condition, I mean, the seat shows very little wear, if any. Porsche uses really high-end materials. I mean, even like this houndstooth stitching, or this houndstooth cloth, I guess I would say, on the ceiling, just everything feels really, really high quality to the touch. And let's face it, this car's under $30,000. For a car that started at almost $70,000 brand new, you could buy this car and not tell anybody you bought one with 80 on it, because it doesn't look like that. On the exterior, you do have optional, it's a darker trim package, and there's a specific name for it, which I'll pop up right here. But it basically blacks out all the chrome on the window surrounds. You got a set of 19-inch wheels. Does have the what they call PDLS, which is Porsche Dynamic Lighting System. You've got LED running lights on the exterior, but you do have a set of adaptive xenons, which actually steer with the car at night. It's pretty neat. It's cool to see on a dark road if you've never seen it again. But fantastic lighting. That's another thing about Porsche. They've always been very, very big on lighting options for cars. Front and rear park distance control with a rear view camera as well. So you can see and hear how far away you are from your objects in the front and rear. With an audible warning as well as the factory graphic there. But just to get back to the stereo, it is a Bose surround sound system. Again, one of the bigger options on the car. It sounds fantastic, makes high highs, low lows, but it does have a surround sound setting. So for newer music, when you listen to it on that, it sounds like you're sitting in a sound stage. The sound just kind of fills the whole entire vehicle and comes at you from every direction. It's very rewarding. But I've spent a little bit of time with this car now, and I have to tell you, it's exceptionally rewarding. I know some people aren't that impressed sometimes with the 6-cylinder versus the V8 variants, but as time keeps going by, you get a 3.6 liter in this thing, 300 horsepower setup that's routed to the 8-speed automatic. It's efficient, meaning you're going to get much better fuel economy than you would with the 8, but you really don't lose a whole lot of athleticism. The way Porsche builds and tunes their cars is they really are built for sport. And just the responses, I mean, the steering is typical Porsche steering, razor sharp. You breathe on it and the thing goes in the direction you're breathing in, so to speak. And it just looks great. The key, I'd show you the key right now, but the keys on these even are like a little Porsche silhouette built into the key. It's neat. It's something you got to see in person, but it's really, really cool to see. But if you're in the market, I mean, here's what's the crazy part. I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, here, for what we have this car priced at, it's priced at the same price that a base Volkswagen Tiguan is priced at. And I really mean a base model Tiguan is the same price as this car. So, Tiguan's a great car. I'd still sell you one if you want one. But just as a demonstration of value, if you've always dreamed of a Porsche, buy the highest quality one. I'm not going to tell you this one's the cheapest one out there, but when you consider the quality and care this car has had throughout its lifespan, I can't recondition a car back to these standards. This came from a loving home. Somebody took great, great care of this car when they had it, so it's just waiting to find a new home.